for those of us that have seen it before, but it might be nice to reconnect it. So emergent systems come about when innovators, and a lot of you are up there at the top right-hand corner, left-hand corner, sorry, working in pockets, trying to change the system, trying to bring about a better world, or as Ross put it, another world, right? It could be, there could be innovators working in terrorist networks, or you could use this system to bring about any kind of change you want. I mean, you could argue that big tech has a version of an emergent system they're looking to bring about. Well, anyway, a group of innovators in pockets all over the place, fragmented, not in contact with each other, start connecting. And this is where I see our job coming in. So as weavers, we can connect innovators into communities of practice, cultivate those communities of practice, help them flourish, nourish those, and then multiply and amplify. And then you really get that transition of the system. Another aspect of our work is to show the choice. Do you really want that old system that's not working for so many of you, or not working in many ways in your lives? Or do you want this new future perspective? So talking a lot about the future, showing the choice between the old and new. Where are we moving from, and where are we moving towards? And I can't stress really enough how important that is. And we'll get into it in a methodology that we developed that can help you bring people together into these communities of practice, figure out what kind of narratives work, what kind of perspectives on the future, and what kind of stories you need to start telling each other around where are we moving towards. This is a methodology. We saw two infinity signs in Ross's, or many infinity signs in Ross's. I took one, basically a 6-step process using inspiration to, I'll get into it, to move from inspiration to intention to action. So what a lot of us see probably is that in the causes we work in, it would be of so much benefit to bring more people to the cause, right? We want to grow the group or the movement or the ecosystem of collaborating partners to achieve the kind of collective power we're looking for. Because as Mariana said in the introduction, or framed the question in the introduction, there's really no systems change without organizing organizing power. So I guess there's a thesis in there. So how might we bring together an ecosystem or a movement or a group of people around shared purpose or purposes, shared stories, shared narratives, which are compelling narratives of the future, and then move towards that, define actions towards it. So this is a model you could use. If you want to take a screenshot right now, you could, and otherwise I can send it to you. But what we do is we leverage inspiration to get people to start dreaming about what kind of world do they really want. So the question we ask there is often, what would you like to see much more of in your life, your organization, or the community you live in? Get people dreaming using the creative process, as many of you are familiar with, to come up with a visualization of that compelling future. Then you really want to step into that future, step into it as if in a way that it will it won't let you go. So the example I often use, how much time do I have left? 1 minute probably, or 30 seconds? Yes. Yeah, the example I often use is mindfulness. Once I started meditating, the world of focused attention and inner work would never let me go again. And that's stepping into this kind of desired, compelling future. And you can do that for whatever future that is. And then together define, bring people together around, okay, so we have a picture of the future, and what is a shared our shared picture of that, and then defining together how to move towards it, enable each other's actions toward that, and then take those actions. And those actions can start this endless loop of positive change. And it's a really powerful, because it not only gets us co-creating what kind of future we want, it not only gets us setting an intention to move towards that, but it actually leverages the action we take towards that to inspire many others. So that's the model we'll talk about a little bit more in the breakout room, and if you want to join me please do. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Karim. So now I invite Juliana Uribe from Mobilizatorio to share the methodologies and the experience of Mobilizatorio connecting for social change. Juli.
Thank you, Mari, and good afternoon and good morning to everyone. I'm so excited to learn from the chat that we are here connected from all around the world. If you want to go next, Mari, we are Mobilizatorio. We are a citizen engagement and social innovation lab. We work across all Latin America, and today we're here to share a little bit of what we have learned in the past 4 years of work. One of our initiatives when we started Mobilizatorio was El Avispero, a social movement and network of change makers, because our first hypothesis when we were thinking, what does Colombia need for mobilizing people, was actually starting by connecting those who were already mobilizing at the local level on different issues and connect all those leaders to see how could we start working together. So first, I want to share our theory of change, and this is a little bit of what we'll be working on in the breakout rooms. It's about how to build a very strong theory of change for mobilizing. So we started by strengthening leadership, leveraging communications, and building and using technological tools in order to build power from the ground up and gain collective victories. And those victories are the ones who inspire further engagement, help to build strong participation culture among all the people who have participated in the past and inspires others to participate. And at the end, the sum of these engagement, participation culture, collective powers, and networks end up creating collective power that later, it's like a circle of benefit, later end up strengthening more the leadership, leveraging the communications, and helping to build stronger technological tools. So this is the theory of change that we've been applying in Mobilizatorio since the beginning, as well in El Avispero. So we're gonna show how a little bit of like the impact of this work. So this is like a picture of what we have achieved from 2016 to 2021. Right now, we have a network of 100,000 people and more connected through technological platforms, 1,700 organizations. In the past year, we helped mobilize 1.5 million in small donations for specific causes. Our campaigns reached over 6 million people, and we have created over 40 campaigns that in some have helped to create more than 45,000 incidents actions. We have 9 leadership working groups of people connected, working on climate change, on education, on the fight for misinformation, on peace building. And we have created 3 different engagement tech platforms that we have piloted in post-conflict regions and also at the level of Latin America. We have influenced many decision makers in policy design and citizens' behavioral change, which at the end is what we want to measure. What's the impact of these networks and all of this weaving that we've been doing for years. I want to show you and tell you a little bit more of the successes that we've had in the past as specific examples of the theory of change. For example, El Avispero, together with many organizations in Colombia, did a campaign to declare the climate emergency in Bogota, which was something very important in a city that has over 7 million people. So we activated the network to participate in the national government's dialogue, and at the local level, we demanded the Council of Bogota to sign the climate emergency declaration and to debate about the climate change emergency. We activated youth and collectives and groups in order to defend the climate action, and we use technology to do so. So besides the traditional social networks, we have used many times a platform that is very good, in which we create a petition, and every time that someone signs this petition, it immediately sends an email to the inbox of one of the decision makers. So after a few hours. Sometimes they have thousands of emails in their inbox, and it's a way for the citizens to reach directly decision makers and to open spaces for dialogue and to open spaces for debate when we have very important issues such as the climate emergency declaration in Bogota. Continue.
I'm trying.
So in this opportunity, we activated more of 1,500 direct emails specifically to the heads of the Council of Bogota. We triggered the citizen participation using social networks and social, like Facebook, like like Instagram, like Twitter, in order for people to take more action, not just like post something, but actually send something directly to the decision makers. And finally, we achieved this declaration, which was very powerful. This took many, many months of work from many, many groups. But what we feel is that what we achieved here is collaborating under one goal, having one common agenda, and being very clear on who the targets of these campaigns were. And that helped us to focus our work in a specific victory that we ended up collectively celebrating. This is another way in which we have activated our theory of change. And this is a very different from go straight to campaigning mode. What we have realized with the work is how important it is to support leaders at the local level, and not just individually, but actually helping leaders to learn how to work collectively. So since we started the saying and doing methodology, we have worked over 230 young people in post-conflict regions in Colombia to go through a learning path, which is like a learning by doing methodology, in which they train themselves to launch civic engagement platforms, test those platforms, learn from the experience, and build teams of civic entrepreneurs that end up having the leadership of these initiatives, and with the aim of not just testing and learning and generating impact at the local level, but later scaling that. And we're very proud to say that some of the groups that have started by saying and doing are groups that after the project ends and after the program ends, continue their work, continue using the technology, and actually start replicating these technologies in camps that they organize themselves in the regions to teach others about the methodology of collective leadership, as well as about civic engagement work. So this is a way in which, as a lab in Mobilizatorio, we create a methodology that later helps others to learn what we know and keep polishing and perfectioning it, and creating ways in which this create waves at the local level of people participating more and more without the need of us being physically there. So many of you are asking yourself, okay, how can I start this? If I want to do a campaign for impact, if I want to do a movement building, if I want to start an organization that connects many, what should I do? So here is a step-by-step that is the final recommendations that we have. So first, it's very important to start with a very clear strategy that is about identifying your specific cause. This has to do with focusing on what's the work that you're gonna do about. So for example, in our case, in this example, we started by identifying that we wanted to work on threats to the environment and environmental leaders. Second, what we recommend is immediately identifying who your partners and strategic allies are. And here you could have strategic allies that are foundations, strategic allies that are local leaders, and sometimes it could be also citizens that have been already organized. Sometimes some of those allies could be also decision makers or politicians who believe in this agenda, and you can build partnerships to move forward the agenda together. So in this case of the example, we have indigenous communities and activist leaders as partners that we identified to work on the environmental threats to leaders. And third, what we recommend is designing a very strong theory of change. And that's why we're going to focus our full workshop on how to build a strong theory of change, because we believe since the beginning that at the heart of everything that we do, there must be a strong theory of change before thinking about tactics and creativity. So join us if you want to work on theory of change. And then after having a very strong theory of change, you go to the next step, which is, okay, now I know where I want to achieve and how I want to achieve it and why I want to achieve it. And now I proceed to making calls to actions. So you have to design, and you can design many different calls to actions and different moments. Some of those actions could be towards citizens taking actions. Other times it could be about government taking actions, but you can tailor those actions. So you can use technological tools. You can ask people to sign, to donate, to create content, to share some of the content that you are creating, to go out on the streets, to come to a meeting, to do a co-creation work. There are many ways of tactics, and you can actually start testing and learning which tactics work best on the environment and on the issue that you are working. And finally, always very important, and the Weaving Lab just shared exactly how important it is carrying out the tactic, which is actually going to action. I think we believe that doing something good is better than not doing anything and waiting for it to do something perfect. So what we invite all of you to do is jumping in and actually carrying out the tactics, building the digital platform, building the post, posting, publishing, talking to people, doing meetings, doing work in different ways with your networks, with your partners, talking to the partners. So all of these tactics are very important to execute, and you can start checking what happens when you execute them, what works best, and then you can start like polishing and your theory of change and learning by doing, which is part of what as a lab we believe in is very important to have that flexibility and be able to adapt as things start changing. So now, Mari, I get back to you so that you lead us to the breakout room.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much, Ross, Karim, and Juli for these wonderful presentations. Now we invite you to take just a minute and analyze this question. How do we move towards collective power? And while you're thinking about it, I'm going to explain our next steps. So the question, what we want to do now is we're going to break off into 3 breakout rooms that are going to be directed by one of the 3 theories that we have gotten to know in the past few minutes. So the first breakup room will be how to weave a community. Here we will find Karim and the future weave to work on it. Then the second room is why does the world need more weaving, where we will find Ross Hall in the Weaving Lab. And third is how do we create networks for collective power? Here you will find Mobilizatorio to work on this question. So just think about it. Again, the question is how to move towards collective power, and Nick will help us to break out.
Yeah, so we've got 20 minutes and you can choose the breakout. So let's see if this is going to work. You should be able to go now. Yes, some folks are heading there. Move to, so let's do that. Yes, it's working. Trust the process. Does anyone need any help moving into the breakout room of your choice? Just, yeah, you can choose, you should be able to see which of the three choices, the three breakouts, they should be given to you as options. If that's not the case, I can assign you if you just want to unmute and tell me which breakout you want to go to.
Talk about what 1 or 2 minutes about feedback of the discussions they had in their breakout rooms. And after this, we will also on the chat, we will be sharing the information for a mentee. So please, through the chat, go to the mentee and answer. It's just to have the main takeaway of that you guys have from this session. So who are our three speakers?
Lucia. Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yes, of course, please.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, so in our group, we discussed how to create more social impact by combining a model which includes caring for profit and at the same time caring for the environment and the people. We discussed how in the traditional companies, everything is about profit, and the ways in which we could think outside the box to turn it into a social enterprise, not a non-profit, not an NGO, but a company that will be able to be self-sustained, be financially solid, and at the same time create social impact. So we were discussing, just by the very end of the discussion, we came up with some ideas. One of our colleagues suggested doing some design thinking exercises to think about outside the box and come up with new ideas to make positive impact with companies. Also, we talked about how to redefine the value of money. It's not that money is bad. It's not at all, not whatsoever, but it's just how the value we put into it and the inequalities there are. So this was mainly the main topics of our discussion. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Could you please confirm what discussion group you were? What was the question?
Karen, can you?
Were you with Karim? Oh, perfect, with Karim, perfect. So who's the speaker for Ross's group?
It's me. We started out with the notion or the looking at the analogy or metaphor for the interconnectedness of the mycelium and how important weaving is when we understand how Mother Nature works. And then we moved into, I spoke about intimacy and how important or why it's important is that we've divided and separated and dissociated from the things that are most important and give us our profound sense of belonging out of the current dominating, Karim spoke about the domination system earlier in the presentation. And so we need to rebuild why weaving is important is so that we come back to our sense of interconnectedness, our sense of belonging, and build that through intimacy, which is very rarely, that word is very rarely used, our intimacy with each other, with ourselves, with each other, and with the planet, and with nature, and to feel at an embodied experience what it is in our system. And I mentioned that I'm looking out into the jungle right now, and nature moves into me. I don't go into nature, she is here with me. And coming out of the city of London and living here in Costa Rica, that is something that I'm intimately, profoundly connected and feel it in my body. And we've lost that profound embodied experience of each other and our planet and Mother Earth and nature. And then spoke about his work in systems, the hierarchy of when he goes into organizations, and how difficult or how challenging that is for people to see it from when they're sitting in that hierarchy or the dominant, like a hierarchical system, and how important this learning is and the opening up. And Ross mentioned also that he speaks about authenticity and vulnerability when he's speaking to business leaders, taking away the job titles and the agendas and coming back to our humanity. So why it's important and how important it is to profoundly connect to each other and to feel that we all belong and we all play a part in shifting our future into something that can be flourishing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now from our group, Johan.
Yes, very good. So yeah, I'd almost like to build on what Karen said there. I think that's very, very much in line with what we were talking about also in our group regarding theory of change. And we talked a lot about big goals. We talked about the potential need for sort of a restart of social media, and the current negative spin or spiral that we're seeing, and we needed to get together with the right people to really create a much more positive spin on what is happening around us, and the fact that we are actually a lot of people out there who do want to change, but we need to be able to find the way of getting together. But it's also about breaking down the issues. So it's very hard then, if it is a really, really big goal, to really make it, get the ownership of the solution. So breaking down the issue, we found is a critical element. Of course, also having the passion and unite around a smaller cause is a critical element, of course. And that also drives the ownership of the solution to a different level. And at the end, of course, it's all about action, right? We cannot continue to just do the talk. We need to do much more of action taking and creating the dialogue for change.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we're going to take 2 minutes for you guys to please go into the Menti. We have put the instructions on the chat, and just share with us your main lesson from this session.
There's a question in chat if the slides will be made available. That should be no problem, I believe. But, yeah, we'll send
Yes,
it.
of course.
Yeah.
The presentation will be available for anybody that likes it, of course.
Okay, thank you all for joining us today and for sharing your lessons in Menti. So from this conversation, which I think time always falls short when we are discussing these type of things, and we have a group of very passionate change makers here. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us. I think from seeing all this conversation, I have 3 takeaways that I would like to share with you. The first one is that there is a lot of work happening around these topics. We saw 3 different methodologies and approaches on how to create change and how to mobilize people. And I think this is very reassuring when we live in a world of so many challenges. So just getting to see how much people is really thinking about this and putting a lot of work and effort in how to bring people together is very important for all of us. The second, of course, and I think I'm preaching to a choir here, but it's more obvious now than ever, and is that we cannot do it alone. On all of our conversations, we saw the importance of really coming together, co-creating, bringing people to the center of anything that we want to do so that we can actually mobilize and create change. And the third one that I think is also very important is that bringing people together is a bit of an art. And it is more important when we discuss about how to actually not only bring people together, but actually create change. And I would like to really put some thought on that, and is that it's very challenging to try to inspire people, mobilize them for change, but then there's also another step on actually creating change. And those things are very much connected, and both things require smart strategies. We discussed that with the theory of change, but they also require to be sensible, to be appropriate, to actually have some sensitivity on what people want, what people really needs, and how they can be inspired for change. So these 2 things, this art of really combining the knowledge and the strategy and the methodologies with the sensitivity to actually engage people and reach to them and in a personal level, and to connect with them and create trust. That combination is really what is the power combination, we think, and it's really great to see how all these things are happening around the globe. So thank you so much for inspiring us and to sharing with us. We are all having our contact information here, so we would love to continue and to getting in touch with all of you to create change together. And I'll leave you with this quote that is we've seen in many places, but it's always very inspiring to remember that we can change the world, and we are already doing it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for everybody for having participated in this space. Thank you to Karim, to Ross, to Nick, everybody at Catalyst. This has been a real honor for us. I will leave here all our contact information. We will be more than happy to continue conversations and possibilities and opportunities in the future. And thank you so much.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all wonderful hosts and participants for your energy and commitment on this beautiful journey together. Some other invitations also in chat. Yeah, great that you're sharing your connections. There's also a feedback form if you have any comments, and there's invitations to the Catalyst community. And we're also committed to more inclusion, so there's a survey around that. And there's also, if you would like to continue just chatting with random session participants from other sessions as well, we have a lounge space. So that's all in the chat. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you at other sessions this week. Thank you so much. And again, huge thanks to all of the weavers who put this together, collaboration at work. So thank you to Julia, Lina, Mariana, Ross, and Karim. Bravo. Enjoy.
Thank you so much again. It was an honor.
And Nick, and I don't want to break protocol, but we have 15 minutes left, don't we? Or did we go over time? Do we have some time for some open, free-ranging discussion? Or
totally, yeah.
Or,
I think we have 15 minutes left, huh?
I counted on 7:30 in any case, so
Yeah.
I've got 15 minutes left.
Me too.
I'm curious, if you're cool with that, Nick.
Absolutely.
I'm
Like
curious what's going on in people's minds. What did they take away? What do they want to bring up after a great session like this? Again, the question was about how do we move to collective power, right? How do we weave ecosystems or movements or people for collective to create collective power? What is there? Yeah, I see somebody raise their hand. Johan, hi.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, I'm sorry for just putting in a long piece in the chat there, but I'm really so excited by being here and being connected and seeing that there are so many people out there who really wants to try to achieve very, very similar things. And that is also what I'm working on, of course. And I sent you a private invitation link to what I'm the founder of. And I think it can be a really, really excellent toolbox for all of us to do even more together there. And it's basically about creating a different type of social media for the entrepreneurship ecosystem based on trust, invitation, accountability, and so on there. So I would very, very much want to continue this discussion either there, of course, or in any of the other places which we have been shared and so on here. But it's very clear to me that we can do really a lot more, and we have to get better than those bad guys who are apparently so good at organizing themselves. We have to organize the good people now, right? To make sure that we, yeah, so that's really it.
That's a really interesting point. The bad guys are really good at it.
Yeah, exactly. They're amazingly good at it. Yeah, the dark web and everything like that. We need to have a really white web here now, right? So we need to get away from and just take this as an example. Here we are in a Zoom call, but I'm not sure how many of each of us know each other. But once we've hung up from this, if we haven't connected somewhere else, like in LinkedIn or in a different platform, this is sort of lost, right? So in Entnest, for instance, we then do have this video capability. We do have all the social media elements from LinkedIn and Slack and WhatsApp, from Mentimeter even, and we're starting to get really big. So we're based in Geneva, and yeah, it's based on invitation only. And once you're inside, everybody can see who invited you. Once you're inside, you can invite whoever you want, but you're accountable for the people that you bring in. So if you bring in people that takes bad actions, they will get excluded. And most likely the person who invited them will also get excluded. And that's what I think we're missing in the world today, where today you get away with murder and unaccountability and yeah, I think it must be much more about what we see is what we get, right? We need to be able to trust the person on the other side.
Yeah, collaboration moves at the speed of trust.
Yeah. So I'm very, very interested in collaborating very close with all of you, and I'm extremely sure that we can do so much more by getting a little bit closer here. So very, very powerful and positive.
Just if I may respond to that briefly, Johan, thanks very much for that input. That this idea of fostering trusted relationships is certainly very close to my heart and work, but it is incredibly difficult. And it would be interesting if anyone has any perspectives on how to go about doing this work. If anyone would be interested in sharing, that would be cool.
Yeah, and I think one of the new challenges is actually building that trust online. I think social distancing is one of the things that has created and is like a further challenge of connecting with people, because if we were here right now in a room, we'll go out from this and take coffee, and you create so many human relations throughout those spaces. And I think it's nice that we are connected from all around the world, but at the same time, I feel that the screen puts an additional challenge for us to create those relationships for trust. And I think that takes more time, and and creative trust is key in order to work together. So it's part of what we should aim to continue a conversation, continue doing the work, and having also this energy to start conversations with people that you don't know, even if it's like online.
Yeah, I think it starts with not having so many fake profiles and not so many bots in the social medias and so on, right? I mean, that has to be the start. It's that's at least my view.
I
you're
have
right.
to laugh just because, sorry, there was about 10 people joining that were all Nick Graham. So I was laughing
Really?
at your point
That's
around the
true.
bots.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know it's a popular name, but no. I told you we had some bugs, right? That was one of them.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Nice.
That had never happened to me before, but yes, we were all Nick.
Different kind of weaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I think the most important element here is to actually acknowledge and be conscious of the power that we have if we work together, and
Yes.
if we actually do organize and be strategic and actually have a strategy of going from one point to the other and actually getting those victories, and not only staying in one stage, but also being able to move to different stages. I think that is the main point and the magic of these methodologies and in this way of working is actually getting the opportunity of actually working together and creating something specific and having impact.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I don't think it helps with the US government, for instance, wanting to break up Google and Facebook and so on. I think as long as there is no alternative, they will still behave in a way that the majority of the population is not going to be too pleased with, right? So right now, we need to have those alternatives, and we need to be ready to support and really go a different direction than what we're seeing today. And if we're not ready to step up and do the change is something good, right? We should all strive for change right now. Of course, it's scary at the same time, but we have to change. There's no way to stay with what we have right now.
Agreed, completely agree.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of people have already joined, and I really, really appreciate that. And I will connect with all of you, and we can very easily set up a group for all of us who's here also, and very easily continue with further discussions and even do video conferences and all of that. And I would, as I said, I would love to work very close with Karim and Ross and Mariana and Nick and all of you here. I am very sure that it will be a very positive future if we can just get a little bit closer to each other.
Definitely. Let's do keep in touch and organize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there
Excellent.
other people who've been in breakouts, maybe haven't had a chance to share their views? Is there anyone else that would like to share an invitation or a question or a challenge, provocation? What struck you? What would you like to do next?
People are shy right now.
Yeah.
I could just say something. I've just retired from a very long career as an educator and moving towards trying to figure out how best to really work on saving the planet on multiple levels, and have been listening to the conversations on Humanity Rising. I don't know if other people have been doing that, to try and learn from the best about where I could best put my energy. And it's come down to, for right now, is how can I, right in my neighborhood, in my community, build these trusting relationships, weave together these individual households that we just happen, we all happen to live here. We've already begun to develop some sense of, community and mutual aid, but how to really build that, and then how to link that to other neighborhoods and link that across a city, and how to really reimagine a city, because I think so many people live in cities. So how are we going to live in cities when, the climate crisis really hits? So that's something that I'm feeling very passionate about and challenged by is how do you really imagine a big city? I live in Seattle, Washington, which is connected to a much larger sprawl of cities. And how will it be regenerated as a city?
Yeah, we did some excellent. Well, we did some interviewing with a lot of people across the Netherlands around the polarization with regards to the energy transition and the resistance that is already emerging all over the place. Not more windmills, not more solar panels. But what was so striking from that research is that first of all, it was cathartic because we broke out of our own filter bubbles. And talk to people that unfortunately I normally don't talk to enough. And secondly, what was really striking is that everybody's very much willing and yearning to be heard, from right to left, from old to young, from educated or not, or very little education, etc. But what I saw that emerging from that was there was a lot of willingness to because the people are starting to settle around the goal of, or the need for saving our planet. But people feel so powerless. So if we can start triggering their own power again, triggering their own agency, like you're doing, Bridget, by going into your community and bringing that community together and figuring out together, okay, maybe we don't want it how the government has come up with it. Maybe we actually even resist tyranny from there's a lot of that going around in your country. But we can, in our own communities, we really can reimagine and rebuild, for lack of a better word, or rejuvenate, regenerate. But there's a lot of willingness from unusual suspects, the unusual groups that I wasn't expecting. I'm so glad I stepped out of my bubble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just feels like, there isn't time to wait for big government to decide and then to move or to change. That it just has to start happening from the bottom up as well. And that includes some civil disobedience and reclaiming public space and reimagining, neighborhoods, and that has to happen at the same time.
Yeah, I was very positively surprised, I guess, about Biden's speech now about trickle down not working, right? Coming from a leader of the free world, so to say there, I think, and the fact that it needs to come from the bottom up, I think we have huge opportunities. It's just that we need to get organized. And as we said before, it's coming back to the good people getting finally correctly organized to really make a movement that will have a positive impact on the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the constant work is also key, because sometimes, what we need is to have constant work, and not just in the moments of crisis, because usually we get together, we mobilize, we talk when we're facing like a huge challenge right away. But I think part of what we have learned is that it's also so important to have continuous conversation with the key stakeholders, continue building trust, keep those conversations alive, keep those partnerships alive, so that when it's really needed to activate the full network, we can jump into it and do it.
I'm curious, Bridget, how did you come to the conclusion to do it in your own neighborhood rather than statewide, or rather than join an organization, but go start or focus on your own community?
Really, this sense of interconnection, I think, and how we are all deeply interconnected. And I've made great connections with people on the web during COVID, but how could I really lean into the person-to-person relationships in my neighborhood? And it's also in a sense of, I'm part of a little group here in Seattle that's really thinking about 15-minute communities. And in my mind, I think about it as revillaging the city. And it's like, well, if I'm going to do something, I need to do it right here with my neighbors, but also perhaps we can provide a model that is a seed or a spark for other neighborhoods across the city. So, and then I'm also thinking that it also needs to be connected to a meme that's this new story about the city. And I'm 4 weeks away from retirement. 2 weeks I was taking care of my grandson. So here I am just beginning to think, having spent a year really thinking about this and learning about this, it's just deciding it is creating a seed and a spark and doing it in my own neighborhood, but doing it also connected to a subgroup of 350.org here in the city, that can we spark other neighborhoods to do the same? But I also am realizing that there are initiatives across the city of Seattle, and each little initiative is very focused on its own little piece, and they don't know about each other. So how can we then weave together these little initiatives towards a greater vision? And what is that greater vision, and how do we create a compelling narrative for that so everyone can see themselves as part of that?
Great. Well, now our time is now officially up. Now we do have to close, but again, thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Catalyst. Again, Nick, Kareem, Ross. Really, it has been an amazing opportunity for Mobilizatorio to be able to share with you our work and to learn so much from all of you. So please keep in touch and have a wonderful week.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for those beautiful additions and offerings at the end. We'd love to stay connected. Yeah, let's reach out. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Have a great day, folks. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Take advantage of this wonderful event.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you had a good one. See you at the next one. Yeah. Cheers. Great to get